Hello, John from Terrible Games here, and this is a really exciting video. We are going to be unboxing the final production copies of Vlka, our most recent campaign. These are early final proof copies that I've had from my review, and let's go ahead and take a look. I think one of the first things we should do is put on some music. So here's the audio cassette that we had produced. This was an add-on that we made. Very cool stuff. Comes with the download code. And here's what the tape looks like. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop that in. So first, let's go ahead and dig into the Kickstarter backer exclusive gift bundle. Make sure this isn't too loud. Okay, so first we have the sticker sheet. Not a lot to say on this one. Looks pretty cool. I'm looking forward to putting a couple of these on my car. Great, got that out of the way. Next, we have the poster. I don't know if I'll be able to get all of this on camera, but we'll give it a try. So the one side actually has custom art, which, like I said, I'll try to get as much of it as I can in frame. So this will look great in your game room or your D&D area. Whoa. But awesome illustrations by Brooke, as usual. On the opposite side is a horizontal alternate poster, and this is actually the artwork for the various strikes that you can complete. And hey, that fits on the table. Let's take a look at it like that. Okay, there we go. Pretty cool. The vertical one, obviously, not so much, but still you get the idea. All right, and now we'll get into some of the stuff that actually impacts gameplay a little bit. So everybody who backed on the campaign will get the Dark Shadows expansion. This is going to include the Dark Gnomes faction. So you're going to get 4 of these player cheat sheets. These are 4-panel folded little reference cards that tell you how the new items and events inside of this expansion pack work. You also get a Dark Gnomes Ninja Vanish explanation for their Warband boon ability, as well as some flavor text and a components list. So you have 4 of these, or no, 5, one for each player for maximum player count at 5 players. And let's open up the pack and see what we got. So we have the Hero's Buckler, the Rogue's Poignard, Bristol's Fang, Rapier's of Pain, the Saddle Mouse, which is the familiar for the Dark Gnomes, Gambler's Luck, which is a really cool event, and here come the Dark Gnome Warband, which I absolutely love. These guys are vaguely ninjas. You know, the Ninja Vanish spelled with a silent G was one of my contributions to this faction. Here's the Warband Elder, which typically you would win these guys by beating the Lone Quest, but you know, we just included it in the expansion so that you even out the entire roster. And here's the rest of the event cards with Mercy, and Magic Bag is probably one of my favorites. So there's the Dark Shadows expansion. And again, this was a free gift that all Kickstarter backers got, but this particular expansion here will also be available after the campaign as just an additional purchase you can make to your copy of Vlka. Now we'll get into probably the slightly more exciting Kickstarter backer gift. I mean, all that stuff is really cool, but this is the exclusive Kickstarter backer gift that has some gameplay stuff inside of it. So once again, we're greeted with 5, is it 5 or 4? 4 in this one. That could be a mispack thing, or maybe there's 4 only. So this explains the Dragon Awakens card and how the familiars work. So the familiars have their own mechanisms that I'm not going to go into too much here, but they basically work as, they simultaneously work as buffs and as a warband member for your game, so you can get your warband boons to trigger. And the first thing we're greeted with is the holographic Dragon Awakens 2-part event cards. So one thing that did happen is in final proofing, we missed that the banner that says the dragon right here got omitted. And unfortunately, it's a little late for us to fix that. I don't think we're going to be able to afford to reprint all of these, unfortunately. But it is what it is. They still really do work, and this will just be for the Kickstarter backers. Sorry about that. This is a thing that just happens sometimes. Next, we have the Aerostorm event, which is freaking awesome. And then where's the other event card? And the Revivify event. So these are both event cards that were added to the Kickstarter gift bundle during the campaign because you guys really showed up and supported us in a big way. And then we have the Kickstarter exclusive Animal Familiars pack, which again, these guys slot like a buff. They function like a warband member, and they give universal buffs to any member of their warband. They have the cool navy blue border and just a whole rack of different animals. And you can add the mouse from the Dark Shadows expansion. So that comes in this envelope here, the Kickstarter gift envelope. Okay, now for the main event, Vlka, the full game. So this is the production copy. The box turned out great. Everything looks legit. The only slight issue, which unfortunately, again, we're not going to be able to fix, and this is a cosmetic thing, the folding magnetic box flap on the side here, there's slightly off center for the title treatment, but it looks good everywhere else. So let's open it up. You are greeted with our rule booklet, some flavor text inside the box. We'd love to see that. We're going to talk about the rule booklet in a little bit. I want to go through the rest of the components first. And the same thing applies for these rules reference cards because these are going to be updated. There were some issues with this, and I'll address those in just a minute. So first and foremost, we are greeted with the damage and warband tokens. And strangely, this particular copy features the player marker for the one player for the solo lone quest mode, but not the player marker for the multiplayer mode, which is an issue. I had opened another copy myself that did have the correct punch sheet, so this is another thing that I need to bring up with the factory to make sure that they're not mispacking anything, because this is probably from an older version that they had in stock. So that's a thing that we need to make sure we get right. Then we have the player board for the Lone Quest, which also features a quick little visual aid for the various types of strikes you can do in the multiplayer, which includes True Strike, Chance Strikes, Reckless Strikes, and Team Strikes. This is mostly an aesthetic thing, but it does provide like a light reminder. Then inside of every copy, you'll receive your Lone Quest reward card. So every time you defeat the Lone Quest, you reveal a reward card and add it to your main Vlka deck, which is really fun. We're not going to reveal any of these. They come in a little, plastic baggie. They're very cool. We'll show one of them. So there's the leader of the Knights, and every time you defeat the Lone Quest, you'll rescue a Warband Elder and add them to your multiplayer deck. Then we have probably one of my favorite components from Vlka is the Canvas Cloth Lone Quest map. Which turned out great. We did talk to them about reducing drift on the corners here because this map needs to be sized to fit cards. So the sizing was very important, and we wanted to maintain the quality of the artwork. And they did a great job. You can see that there isn't a lot of issues with drift on this particular one. Obviously, there may be some outliers to that, but this one looks really great. Good coloring, all of that stuff. And then we go to some cards. Let me see here. I want to open this up and just flip through them really quickly. So I've already tested it out with the other copy that I had mentioned earlier. All of the cards, so that's another thing to notice really quickly is we have updated the storage channels for the game. In the prototype copies that you might have seen on the campaign, this layout was a much different. The depth has now been increased so that this upper lip here has enough room to fit all the components comfortably. Additionally, the dice damage tokens and warband tokens and player markers all fit up here. And we'll just flip through the cards, which obviously just look great. We've already checked through all of these. The card quality is excellent. Artwork is really crisp and clean. Everything looks great. All the warbands, buffs, and events are in here. Good stuff. Very, very good. And those go right in here. And then smart of the factory, they went ahead and put all of the quest cards inside of a separate envelope. So all of the quest cards for the Lone Quest are in their own little deal. And you'll notice that the leftover space above these, as well as this empty channel here, with all of the added material, it all fits. I could go ahead and put that stuff in there, but I'm not going to for right now. Now let's take a look at the dice. So in the multiplayer mode, the color of these dice have absolutely no bearing on anything. You're just going to use them to do chance strikes, and their outcomes, the zeros are going to equal 10s. But in the lone quest, you actually utilize these colors to markate different things. So your crone, which you start with 12 crone at the beginning of the lone quest, you'll mark with the gold D10s. And I'm really pleased with how these turned out. You might be wondering why these are like a gold sparkle finish as opposed to like the rendered like metallic chrome that we showed during the Kickstarter campaign. The reason for that is that when we render stuff in 3D, we have limited options on how we can render things visually, and to create gold dice, the easiest way was to just do a metallic like chrome gold finish. But even like with consideration to cost, actually doing metallic chrome finish on dice is actually very cost prohibitive. And even though the campaign did really well, we have to watch scaling costs over, 3,000 plus units. And this did cost a little bit extra to do this gold sparkle, but it would have been a lot more expensive to do the chrome finish dice. So this is what we went with, and I think it does really look great. Moving on though, you'll note the red dice actually goes here to track your stamina, which you will set at the 3 value. And all of this is cool. These could just be normally colored dice, but it does help with theme, I think. I think it makes the experience a lot more enriching. But more importantly, these 2 dice that are left over for the lone quest really help, because anytime you're resolving combat and there is a chance strike or a test of fate in the lone quest, you're going to want to roll when like your guys are going against bad guys, against the marauders, you're going to want to roll 2 dice to determine the outcome of a chance strike. And it is so much easier to just have the marauders be represented by black and your fighters be represented by white, or however you want to decide your colors. And that way you can roll both dice simultaneously and then figure out who strikes who, and then place damage tokens on your marauders and continue with your lone quest. It just makes everything much cleaner. So that's everything. And now I need to put some stuff to you guys. So the first thing I'm going to address is something that we're already going to fix. So obviously the Kickstarter exclusive animal familiars are not going to be included or even available to people who pick up this game after the campaign, which I understand there are mixed opinions about that particular practice. I actually think that giving a gift to our Kickstarter backers, because they are so vital to the health of a company as small as ours, is something that we kind of need to do, and also something I'm happy to do because you guys really did support us in a huge way. But including the mechanical ruling of how they work on this rules reference card that'll be included in every copy is kind of a bad look, because people will see that if they can't get the animal familiars and they see this stuff, it just kind of leaves them wanting. So that needs to be removed. Additionally, the way that we explain lightning bolt on this card is incorrect. There was a mix-up in the way that it is explained here versus how it's explained in the rule booklet, and this needed to be fixed, and we wanted to remove this. Both of those things have already happened, and the factory is reprinting these rules reference cards, of which there are 5. So you have the 5 rules reference cards that tell you how all of the warband boons trigger and how they work. Additionally, how each of the different event cards for the multiplayer mode work. And again, like, just to quickly touch on this, for the reason that these are like this, instead of just putting the text on the cards, is we wanted to maintain the artistic look of each of the cards. And we figure that after 2 or 3 games, all of these rules, or at least most of them, are going to be pretty easily internalized, and you're not even really going to need this anymore. They're fairly straightforward, but you'll have them, and there's one for every player. In addition to those for the multiplayer mode, we also include a rules reference card for the lone quest that actually works really well in conjunction. Oh, the tape just ended. Let's flip it over. Works in conjunction with all of the reference material that is included here on the Lone Quest Player Aid. And speaking of which, one of the things that we're going to address now, which is actually something I need to hear from our community about, is some corrections to the rule booklet. So you'll see here that in order to reinforce, you need to succeed on a test of fate and roll 2 stamina, right? or spend 2 stamina, excuse me. So it says it right here that you have to succeed on a test of fate in order to do the reinforce action during a fight with a marauder in the lone quest. That's great. That's really straightforward. In the lone quest rules, when it talks about the reinforcement action, it actually doesn't clearly state to do the conscript. Under reinforce, you can either play an event card or you can conscript, where you spend 2 stamina and call for reinforcements, draw a new fighter from your fighter deck. It never tells you to actually test fate. It says even outcome, odd outcome. You could infer that from this without it actually explicitly saying test fate. And in conjunction with this, you could definitely put it together. But that is a slight omittance from the solo rules that I do kind of have a problem with. Other than that, I didn't really notice any other issues with the rule booklet as far as the rules text as written. However, you'll notice if you look in here that the overall print quality of the artwork, both on the cover for the Lone Quest and the multiplayer rules, is a little bit blurry. It's not a huge aesthetic hit, but if you look at the clarity we have on the text versus the title treatment or any of the artwork, and that is universal, unfortunately. All of the renders of cards and images throughout the rule booklet have sort of this pixelated, crunchy kind of quality to them, which, you know, for functioning purposes, it doesn't really impact the game at all. Aesthetically, especially since we may never reprint this game, it really bums me out. I'm not sure what happened. I think there might have been a mix-up with the factory where they grabbed the web-friendly version of the rule booklet, which I don't think they did because everything is flipped over properly. And yeah, in previous versions, you might have noticed that like this wasn't done properly either in our original prototypes. The way that this rule booklet works is if you're playing the multiplayer mode, you can open it like this, and you can look through everything. Everything's there. It's good. We're having a great time. And then if you want to play the Lone Quest, you just flip it over, and the book functions that way too. So we have one rule booklet. Let me know if you think we should reprint these. There is one ruling mistake and like 2 typos that are like a spelling related thing. I can tell you where the other one is. It's also in the Lone Quest where for a little while we were calling the quest cards encounters. You can see right here. There's an artifact from when it was still called an encounter card. And the reason we changed that is because we thought encounters and events sounded a little similar. So we wanted to differentiate the encounter cards, and we changed them to quest cards because it's the Lone Quest. We just felt like that was a lot more intuitive. So there's a typo here, and there's 1 or 2 other things that are very small and don't impact comprehension of rules at all. But I'd like to hear from you guys if you think we should reprint the rule booklets for the final version. You know, this is a judgment call that I'm ultimately going to need to make, but I'd love to hear your feedback. So that is everything. Obviously, it's not perfect, but it's pretty dang close. Let me know your thoughts. I will be posting an update along with this video in our Kickstarter update stuff. The timeline for Vlka right now is that we're waiting for them to reprint these updated rules reference cards, and everything should be done by the 14th. I'm shooting this video on the 10th, I believe, of May, and we're already in conversations with our freight forwarder, and we are tying up the very last bit of communications with our various localized fulfillment partners in the EU, Asia, and Australia and New Zealand, as well as in the United States. Obviously, the United States, we've already fulfilled a bunch of projects using our fulfillment partners in the US, so that has a lot less growing pains to get through. The other guys, we just have to do some stuff with VAT and tax compliance, and but we should be rounding the corner on getting the pledge manager up and live to collect your shipping information, as well as your receiving address for all of your rewards very, very soon. I want to apologize for dragging my feet on this, but it seriously is just an issue with parsing out all of our freight forwarding to 3 different localized shipping partners and dealing with international freight shipping compliance and getting price quotes for individual backer fulfillment for 3 different warehousing and fulfillment partners. That all of that just is a lot more work than I'm used to as basically the boots on the ground sole person who kind of handles all of the behind the scenes logistics for Terrible Games. So all of that said, if you made it all the way to the minute, this 20-minute video, thanks a lot. I'm stopping at 20 minutes. See ya.